This episode is brought to you by Captain Morgan Sliced. Since the dawn of bread, people have known the truth. Sliced is better. That's why new Captain Morgan Sliced went all in on 4 bold, deliciously sliced cocktail-style flavors. Pineapple daiquiri, strawberry margarita, mango mai tai, and passion fruit hurricane. Visit CaptainMorgan.com to find Sliced near you. Does not contain real fruit or juice. Captain Morgan & Co., Plainfield, Illinois. Please drink responsibly. 21 plus only.
This is The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Now, here's Frank Morano.
If you are a convicted felon and you've done your prison sentence, you've served your debt to society, you've paid your dues, as it were, can you serve on a jury? The answer is it depends on what state you're in, but most states, the answer is no. In about 20 states, I guess that's not most states, in almost half of the states, if you are a convicted felon, you can't serve on a jury. New York State has sort of an interesting take on it. In New York, they allow you to, if you have one single felony conviction, to get your jury service eligibility restored. Donald Trump, for instance, has one felony conviction, or, it's one case. So after his sentence is served, whatever his sentence is, whether it's probation or a fine or prison, I can't imagine it's going to be prison. After he finishes that, he would be eligible to serve on a jury in New York. But if you have multiple felony convictions, you can't serve. That was until the state legislature got a hold of this. Before ending its session this year, the state legislature passed the Jury of Our Peers Act, which would essentially allow you, if you have multiple felony convictions, as long as your sentence has been completed, probation and parole, whatever it might be, you can then be eligible to serve on a jury, just as you can as a voter. And now there's a lot of folks, including Hannah Myers of the Manhattan Institute, who wrote an op-ed in the New York Post about this weekend, urging Governor Hochul to veto this. But this is not just a New York thing. This is a debate that is raging all over the country. There are lawsuits challenging these bans in about 20 states, saying that a felony conviction should not preclude you from jury service. So the people that are concerned about letting felons serve on juries say, look, this is not going to do anything except help defendants, because these guys aren't going to serve on juries anyway. If you've got multiple felony convictions, any prosecutor is going to use one of their preemptory strikes to get that felon off the jury. So all it's going to do is give the defense attorneys a little bit more of an advantage. I understand that, and I'm sympathetic to that. That being said, I'm of the belief that once you complete your sentence, you should be able to re-engage in society in a full, complete, and total way. I think that includes voting. I think that includes jury service. And look, I think if we're expecting you to pay taxes and abide by the laws prospectively and be a productive citizen, you should have all the rights and privileges of being a citizen. What do you think? 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. If you're a felon, I'd especially love to hear from you if you've been a convicted felon and you're now at liberty. I'd especially love to hear from you if you know what it's like to be a convicted felon and serve on a jury. But everyone is welcome. You don't have to be a felon to call, although I'm very, very proud that we do have a lot of felons that listen to this program. 800-848-9222. Trace Milan, who is an attorney, spoke with KSBY talking about this proposal.
We tell ourselves and we tell the world that we're the freest people on earth, who are governed by the fairest and most just system of government on earth. And either that's true and you can be convicted and pay your debt to society and then rejoin society, or we're lying to ourselves.
I have to tell you, I agree. I absolutely agree. I think that if you're done with your sentence, you ought to be done. You ought to be done. Dan Dow, who is the district attorney in the county of San Luis Obispo, which is in California. I believe I'm pronouncing the name of that county correctly. Apologies to the folks in San Luis Obispo if I'm not. He is totally against this and doesn't think felons should be able to serve on juries.
Do we want people that are convicted of sexual offenses to be serving on a jury where maybe there's a charged sex offense? Do we want people that are registered sex offenders sitting on our jury pools?
I see what he's saying, but honestly, I think that's a ridiculous argument. If you were a sex offender and you were in the jury pool for a criminal case where one of the charged defendants was charged with a sex crime, the prosecution would move to have you disqualified for cause. And the judge would allow it. The judge would absolutely strike that juror for cause. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So that's a silly argument. And the other thing, and I've talked about this before, and it's a problem that's unfortunately only gotten worse over these last 4 years. There are so few criminal trials. Almost everything ends up in a plea deal. People don't even exercise their right to go to trial because of the trial tax. They say, all right, well, you could take a plea and you could be out of prison in 10 months. Well, what happens if I go to trial? Oh, well, if you're convicted, you're looking at 5 years. And it's going to cost about $150,000 to hire a lawyer to take this case for you. Well, I don't have $150,000. You got a house, don't you? Yeah. Well, that house looks like it could use another mortgage on it. And you could get a mortgage on your house, pay a lawyer, and go to trial. And if you're convicted, do 5 years. So you mean I could hire a lawyer to just negotiate the plea? That's going to cost me about $20,000. I'll be out of prison in 10 months. Or even though I think I'm innocent, even though I know I'm innocent, I could go to trial, take out another mortgage on our house, leave my wife and family in a dire financial situation, and if they convict me, I have to do 5 years? No. I'm going to have to take the plea. And so that's been frustrating to me that, the trial system, in most cases, doesn't exist. There are trials that happen, right? And high profile trials. You got this Karen Reed case going on. I've been meaning to do a segment on that Karen Reed case. Maybe we'll do something on that tomorrow. But you have the Donald Trump trial. You have the Bob Menendez trial. And those are the high profile cases. But the overwhelming majority of cases don't go to trial. And I think that's a shame because, for a bunch of reasons, because you essentially have people waiving their right to a fair trial because they're concerned about the cost or the trial tax. And you also have a situation where prosecutors, by and large, have forgotten how to try cases. They don't know how to cross again. I don't want to overgeneralize here, but many prosecutors that I've seen when they finally do get tested, they don't know how to cross-examine properly because they've never done it. It used to be a common thing to meet a trial lawyer, whether it's a defense attorney or a prosecutor, and you'd ask them the question, hey, how many cases have you been the lawyer, whether it's a prosecutor or a defense attorney, where you waited for a jury verdict and you heard a jury announce a verdict? And it wouldn't be unusual for an attorney to say, 50 times, 40 times, 30 times, 60, 70 times. That was a lot. Now, you go and ask a trial lawyer, and a well-paid trial lawyer, how many verdicts have you waited for? You'll hear 7, 8, maybe 10 if they've been practicing a while. The idea of going to trial, it has become, or it's quickly becoming the equivalent of having a landline and cable television. It's becoming something that used to happen yesterday. So, and doesn't happen much more today. All right. So I'm of the belief that you should be able to serve on a jury if you've completed your sentence. And I hope Governor Hochul signs this legislation. And I hope other governors in other states do the same thing. What do you think? 800-848-9222. Let me begin with Lou. Lou, what's your take on this?
Yes, well, unfortunately, I am a convicted felon, the lowest felony that you could be charged with. It was 18 years ago. Now, I finished 5 years probation. I wore an ankle bracelet for quite a while, for 3 months, I believe it was. I paid the fines. I did everything that I had to straighten my record out. I cannot vote, and I cannot be a juror.
Well, in New York...
And I think I paid, hey, listen, it was a nonviolent, I'll be honest, it was a DWI.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did everything I had to set the record straight. But, jury duty, I'm not so crazy about having to do anyhow. But losing the right to vote, I mean, that's pretty harsh.
Well, Lou, you're a New York resident?
Yes.
In New York, you automatically get your rights, your right to vote restored after you complete your probation.
I did not know that.
Yeah, no, I have, unfortunately, or fortunately, I have many friends. I have many friends that are convicted felons, and they're voting in elections like crazy now these days. So you absolutely
I'm very glad you passed that information on to me because I didn't know.
No, absolutely.
I've never gone down to the polls when there is an election, just knowing they would turn me away. I'm very
you have to register again. If you're not registered, you have to register.
Of course,
Yeah. Well, so I think you should be able to serve on a jury, and now you should have to bear the burden of jury service just as much as everyone else. And it was in New York, they actually passed a law just a couple of years ago that restores the right to vote for a person upon release. So even it used to be if you completed supervised release, that you would vote. Now, no. Once you finish your prison sentence in New York, you could vote. So you can go out and vote in the election this year. Thanks, Lou. 800-848-9222. We've had the voting discussion. I want to put the voting discussion aside for now, but is the jury discussion so much different? I don't think it is. I think in places that allow, I think you should be able to serve on a jury, period. 800-848-9222. Coming up, I am looking forward to chatting with a very interesting gentleman by the name of Dick Larson. He's a counselor with a background in education, and he has studied the issue of meditation at length, but he studied it in a manner that's a bit unusual. Let me just say that. But I'm looking forward to chatting with him, and I have a feeling that conversation may end up in a surprising direction. We'll see. Dan is in Indiana. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Frank. I got a question for you. What do you think about this? I'm a former police officer, and I had a son that committed a felony. He just went to prison, served his time. He's back home. But prior to going to prison, he had a gun permit. Should he receive his gun permit back?
Was it a violent felony?
They claim it as a violent felony. He had a little tryst with someone underage. And he went to prison for that child molestation.
Yeah, I tend to think that if he's convicted, or not just your son, but if someone is convicted of what's considered a violent felony, I have a tough time giving them a gun back. I tend to think that that's the kind of red flag that should prevent you from owning a gun. But do you think differently, Dan?
I don't know. I'm torn between it. He had several firearms beforehand. Of course, I have several firearms, but he borrows my car. I got to make sure I go through my car and that there's no ammunition or there's no guns in there.
Absolutely.
But he never. Yeah, I mean, the gun was not used in the commission of the felony.
Well, that's the other thing that I was going to ask. So yeah, okay. I don't know. I'd want to learn more about this particular case before I take a position on this. But I'll tell you this: I think he should definitely have to do jury duty. Dan, absolutely. Thank you. Best of luck with you and your son. Not an easy thing to deal with when you have people don't realize this. There's always these, when it's not you or someone you know, there's this temptation to lock them up and throw away the key. And the fact is, when someone goes through the criminal justice system, it's not just them that goes through it. It's their whole family that goes through it, honestly. And I mean, you heard from that gentleman, a former police officer, and he's got to, as he should, make sure that there's no ammunition, nothing in the car or anything when he lends his son the car. It's really something the whole family does go through. I'm not, excusing anybody that does commit a crime, but that does happen. 800-848-9222. Russell is in North Carolina. Hi, Russell.
Hey, Frank, you're talking to a convicted felon here. It was some low-level stuff, basically, but and I have my voting rights back and all that.
By the way, let me pause there, Russell. I love how everybody's calling in and saying, yeah, it's low-level stuff. I want to hear the caller that says, yeah, I'm a convicted felon. I blew up the World Trade Center. I'm a convicted felon, and I committed the worst kind of crimes you can imagine. Everyone, when they're characterizing their own crimes, it's always, oh no, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal.
Well...
So I'm just having some fun with you, Russell. Go ahead.
No, you're cool. You're cool. Well, part of it is they play fast and loose, basically, with what is distribution. So anyway, I don't want to get into all that, but I did have aggravating factors too, because I had prior convictions for, misdemeanors, but they still use it against you. Blah blah blah. But I was kind of wondering what you think of, and I agree with you, you should get your voting rights back, which I have.
And jury service.
Yeah, I don't think in North Carolina you get that
No,
back,
you don't. You don't in North Carolina. You don't have it back.
Right, yeah.
But I think you should.
And, but I was kind of wondering what you think of, what about getting your gun rights back?
Well, I
actually think convicted felons should get it back.
Yeah, I'm a little on the fence about that one. I think if it's a violent crime, absolutely you should not get your gun rights back. If it's a nonviolent crime, like let's say you committed securities fraud, or you were shredding documents in the company boiler room to evade an SEC audit or something along those lines, then I don't have a problem with you having a gun back. But especially if you used a gun to commit a crime, then to me, that's a non-starter. But really, any kind of violent crime, I would be reluctant to give somebody the right to have a gun back. But look, I think maybe different states will come to different conclusions about this. What I don't think you can argue is that jury service is something that every citizen that's free should be able and required to serve. Because look, a jury of your peers is a jury of your peers. And a lot of people that are on trial for a felony, some of their peers may be felons. 800-848-9222 if you want to comment. Coming up, we're going to talk with Dick Larson, who is a counselor with a background in education, who has dedicated a lot of time to studying the issues of meditation and practical spirituality. I have experimented with meditation from time to time. And you know what I'm always lost on is how do you get started? Now, there are some meditation methods that I've come across that I think are pretty effective, but I always would like a primer on how to get started. I'm wondering if that's something that Dick Larson can provide. Feliciano is in Sullivan. Hello, Feliciano.
Hey, Mr. Morano, how you doing this morning, sir?
Good.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the felony situation. I'm convicted felony, second degree robbery, right? I was not a felony.
Wait, Feliciano, I don't want to miss a word of this here because I could tell you're a good storyteller. Make sure you're in an area where you have good phone service. So you said you convicted of second degree robbery, and then what?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
And there was no weapons involved. I'm just gonna pull over because I'm driving because I'm at work. But anyway, and there was no weapons involved, and yet I'm not allowed to even have a license to hunt, a permit for firearm to hunt. So I mean, I like to hunt deer and stuff like that, but I would have to use like a crossbow, or I had to buy a crossbow rather in order to go hunting. Now, this was some years ago, maybe almost 20 years ago, and I'm still not allowed to have a firearm permit.
Well, okay, that doesn't seem right, Feliciano. Where are you working now? Where are you off to?
Right now I'm driving from New York to Canton, Massachusetts. I'm a truck driver. I drive double trailers.
I love it. And your days of committing crimes are behind you.
Way behind me. I mean, my rehabilitation is like 100%. Like I started out because I had a drug addiction. That's the first thing.
Right. Well, that happens a lot, unfortunately.
Yes, but I've taken care of all that. I haven't used drugs in 28 years, man.
That's great. Good for you. I know it's tough.
It's hard bouncing back from a situation like that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm proud of myself for overcoming my struggles, though. I have to say that.
You agree with me, needless to say, that people that are convicted of a felony or multiple felonies even should be able to serve on a jury.
Yes. They call me all the time.
So good. And have you served on a jury?
No, I haven't. I haven't served on the jury. Matter of fact, they just sent me papers for jury duty just recently.
Oh, boy. Feliciano, you got to go through that process and let us know how it plays out for you, because I'm curious if anybody tries to strike you from the jury, given your history.
Yes, like I said, it's been a long stretch between then and now. So,
of course,
matter of fact, I want to go through the process because I've never been a juror before.
Yeah, I think it's something everybody should do, Feliciano. And you know what? When I was a grand juror, maybe about 9 years ago, that's where I met my wife. So it goes to show you never know what can happen. No. Thank you, Feliciano. Good luck. Thank you for listening on those long drives. All right, 800-848-9222. Those of you that are holding, I'll try and get to you. But we're going to talk with Dick Larson, who sounds a little wacky, must be honest, but I love it. He studies meditation, but he's also a believer in the emergence of, I believe it's pronounced Maitreya, the world teacher. And apparently he's emerging. Who is Maitreya, the world teacher, and why is he emerging? What can we learn from him? I will ask that to Dick Larson straight ahead.
The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
Long Island is more exciting than ever at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel. Get ready to zoom into some serious cash with Zoom Ball every Wednesday in June. Win up to $500,000. 1 point equals 1 entry. 2 lucky winners will be drawn at the top of every hour from 1 to 5 p.m. to play Zoom Ball. Discover the excitement at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel.
If gambling is a problem for you or someone, please call the 24-hour toll-free helpline at 877-8-HOPE-NY or text NY.
Show up and run the vibe with Bose SoundLink Max Portable Speaker. Big stereo sound and deep bass gives people the music they can feel. Whether you're at a chill hang or an all-out bash, when you drop your playlist, the party is on. Bose SoundLink Max Speaker. Start the party at bose.com/Spotify speaker.
Going for your first ever run around the park. Literally running errands all over town. Running for the finish line and your personal best. If you run, you're a runner. Find the shoes and clothes to run your way at newbalance.com/running. New Balance. Run your way.
Welcome to the Flash Finds podcast, the world's fastest podcast where we explore how Facebook can help you with the stuff you're into. I'm Emma Rogue, and today I'm with Megan, a member of the Unity Skate Collective group. So Megan, what's the best roller skating tip you've gotten from your Facebook group?
That's probably to square your shoulders. It took me a really long time to learn spins, and it was because my shoulders weren't balanced. But if I balanced them out, I got it.
Say less, I will definitely be joining. Thanks, Megan. See you next time on the Flash Finds podcast, all about discovering the stuff on Facebook you care about. Bye.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano. The Other Side of Midnight presents The Midnight Files.
Midnight in the desert, shooting stars across the sky. This magical journey will take us on a ride, filled with the longing, searching for the truth. Will we make it till tomorrow? Will the sun shine on you? Midnight in the desert, and we're listening. Ooh, we're listening to you.
Dick Larson is an interesting guy. He is a counselor with a background in education, and he has a specialization in the issues of meditation and practical spirituality. No shortage of interest in both of those subjects among the American people. He has been a guest on radio and television talk shows all over the country. He was co-host of a radio program for a time, and he's one of the most sought-after lecturers on the ageless wisdom teachings and their relationship to what's happening in the world today. Dick, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for joining me.
Frank, it's a privilege to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. The privilege is mine. Dick, I have heard so much about meditation over the years and a lot of different types of meditation. Take me through your method. How does one begin the process of meditating? If I'm listening to this right now and I want to focus my mind, or I want to learn more about what all the fuss is about, how do I start meditating?
Well, meditation isn't for everybody, but you won't know it until you try. So what you can do is just try sitting in a chair with your back upright in some place hopefully quiet. You can have the lights on or off, whatever you want. And you just sit in a straight back chair so your chakras are lined up. And then you close your eyes, not for any real purpose except it's less distracting. You close your eyes, and then you think the letters O-M, Om. You think that, and I'll tell you what Om does. You don't say it out loud. That's a chant. That's a much lower vibration than the very high vibration of thinking. So we want to go as high as we can get. So you think Om a couple times, Om, Om. And if you do that, what happens is the O activates the heart chakra and the throat chakra, and the M, if you go like that, you can feel the buzz in your head. That activates the Ajna center, which is the chakra between your eyebrows, and the crown chakra at the top of your head. So the top 4 chakras are activated with Om, and the Om is used to bring your focus. You want to focus right between the eyebrows at the bridge of the nose, not in the middle of the forehead, but right between the eyebrows, and you think Om, and then you just focus there and see whatever comes up. The idea of meditation isn't to get great ideas, although you might, or to get healed, although you might, over time. The idea is to make contact with your soul. Any good scientific meditation is about making contact with our soul. So that's what meditation's all about. Then we're basically downloading energy from our soul to help us live a better life. So you think Om, and then you just focus there. And then when your attention drops, you'll know, because either your head will drop down or your eyes will be looking at the floor even though they're closed. When your attention drops, you just think Om a couple times again, and bring it. With practice, it'll just snap the attention right back to the Ajna center, AJNA, right between the eyebrows. And you focus there for 15 minutes every day. And if you don't know how long you've been doing it, look at the clock. Oh, I got 3 minutes left. Okay. Om. And you focus for 3 more minutes. You can do it in the morning or in the evening or both. I tried it in the evening, Frank, and I fell asleep.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you. I'm listening to you.
I do it in the morning.
It sounds very relaxing. And, for people who might, like me, who might be working at this time and are perpetually sleep deprived, I'm wondering what happens if you fall asleep while meditating?
Nothing. You just sleep.
All right. Well, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
But it's a good way to start the day. You get up, you brush your teeth, you do whatever you need to do, then you come in and you sit down for 15 minutes. You maybe say your prayers first if you're a praying person, and then you meditate. That's what I do, and then I do my little meditation, and then I'm off to the day. So what happens, Frank, is you end up getting up about 25 minutes earlier than you normally would. That's all. But I'll tell you, it's a great way to start the day. You're really focused.
Dick, you are you've been very outspoken on a number of subjects, even beyond meditation and spirituality. Yeah. You have spoken a great deal about, and I am going to mispronounce this entity's name, and I know you'll correct me. Maitreya, the great teacher, or the world teacher. First, tell me the correct pronunciation, and tell me who Maitreya, the world teacher, is.
That's a good question. First of all, you pronounce it Maitreya, like it's M-Y. Mm-hmm. Maitreya. It's a Sanskrit name that means the happy one, the one who brings joy. Maitreya is the name of the next great teacher sent to humanity about every 2,000 years to bring the latest revelation that humanity is ready to start acting upon. And let me explain that. But first, Frank, I'd just like to tell your listeners something I always say at the outset of my interviews. Please don't believe anything I say. That would be blind belief. I'm not here. I don't recommend that to anybody. I'm just here to tell you my truths as they are for me. Mm-hmm. And if any of it makes sense, to just run it through your life's experience, run it through your common sense. If any of it makes sense to you, I'll be very happy with that. If it doesn't, I'm sorry I wasted your time, but I don't think I will. So don't believe me. I'm not here to get you to think like I do or convince you that what I say is true. Now, Maitreya, about every 2,000 years, like I said, we get a great teacher. 2,000 years ago, we got 2 of them. The Buddha taught the wisdom of God. Jesus taught the love of God. Well, it's been 2,000 years. We're entering a new cosmic era, and it's time for another teacher. That teacher is Maitreya. These teachers come from our spiritual kingdom. They're senior members of our spiritual kingdom. They are perfected human beings. They've gone through all the lifetimes that we have and more until they've learned all the lessons that planet Earth had to teach them, and they don't need to take bodies anymore, so they become permanent spirits, permanent consciousness, and then they learn the lessons of the spiritual universe, and they serve. That's their main function. They serve humanity behind the scenes. Well, Maitreya is one of those senior members of our spiritual kingdom. He's here now. My information, again, don't believe me, my information is he's here now in a physical body. He's in a male body, about 6'3". He's living in the outskirts of London. And he's waiting for the best time to come forward to humanity. He made his body, Frank. Now, they're not subject, the masters, the spiritual kingdom isn't subject to the laws of gravity and all those kinds of laws that we are. So they can make things out of nothing. You know, they just take energy and they can make a physical body if they want to. They don't fool around with that stuff, but if they have to, they will. Well, Maitreya made his body so he can't be destroyed. He can't be killed. He doesn't need to eat or sleep, although he might do it to be polite. He works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And he is waiting for the best time to come forward to humanity on worldwide television and radio, hooked up by satellites. That's what they're up there for, this great event. And we are really fortunate, Frank, to be alive at the time that he is going to come forward, which I think is going to be, now this is nothing official. I'm a volunteer for Share International, a nonprofit educational organization that tells the world this story, which was previously told by Benjamin Creme from London, Creme, and he traveled the world for about 40 years telling this story, and I worked with him for about 30 and knew him quite well. And so we're just trying to carry on, me and other volunteers, carry on his work of preparing the world for the world teacher so that when it happens, they know what's going on.
All right, you said quite a bit there that I want to follow up with. We're done with Dick Larson. You can learn more about what he's talking about by going to that website that he referenced. It's shareinternational.us, right, Dick? Share-international.us.
Yeah.
Now, the first thing, that's a pretty detailed scenario that you just laid out. How do you know? Where are you getting that information from?
Sure. I got that information from something called the Ageless Wisdom, which you mentioned in your kind introduction of me. The Ageless Wisdom is an ancient but living philosophy. It's about where we've been and where we are now. It's about life now and in the future. And the two most recent teachers of the Ageless Wisdom, although it's been passed on verbally by mouth for, eons, are Alice A. Bailey, who wrote about 20 books in the 1930s and 40s, and then it's been updated and brought current by the man I mentioned, Benjamin Creme, Creme. He's from London. I worked with him, as I said, for about 30 years. On and off, so I knew him quite well. He passed away several years ago in his 90s, and so we volunteers are trying to carry on with his information. So he is the source of my information. Now, like I said, I've spent a lot of time with him. You know how you just know, and you can't prove it to anybody, you can't show it to anybody, but you know it's true in your heart of hearts? That's how I feel about this. My life's experiences and my time with him and studying the teachings, they just make sense to me. I grew up a Christian, and then I ended up studying some of the other world's religions, and then I ended up going to a Benjamin Creme lecture in Los Angeles, and about 95% of what he said went right over my head, but the 5% got me curious. So I started reading his books, and man, they just made sense. They told me things that my religion hadn't told me, but that makes sense. I'll give you one example. One of the things that he wrote and one of the things that he taught is that the nature of the soul is to serve. And that when we get in touch with our soul, when we finally realize that maybe we're a living spirit, a living soul, we start looking for ways to help other people, to serve them, because the nature of the soul is to serve. Isn't that beautiful?
It's very nice sentiment. How do you know, though, that Maitreya is walking around the outskirts of London in human form and about 6'3"? I mean, that's a pretty specific analysis.
There were pictures of him taken by the editor of the Kenyan Times when he appeared in Nairobi, Kenya. He appeared in Nairobi as there's a woman in Nairobi named Mary Akatsa. She's a Catholic teacher and healer, Roman Catholic Christian teacher and healer, and she would give talks on the hillsides outside of Nairobi every weekend, and thousands of people would attend, many hoping to be healed, and there are real healers. There are also fakes, but there are real healers. And she would heal people, and she would give them lectures and information, like a sermon kind of thing. And she was told she'd have a visitor. And so she was there doing her thing, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this 6'3" guy with a black beard and a black mustache appeared right beside her, dressed all in white. And he was dressed exactly like they think Jesus will be dressed when he returns. And they immediately recognized him as the Christ. They went, Jesu Christus, Jesu Christus. They bent over, and he walked among the crowd, and wherever he walked, people were healed. Then he came back. He spoke for about 20 minutes in perfect unaccented Swahili, and then he left. And the editor for the Kenyan Times was there and took photos of him and him with Mary Akatsa and published them on the front page of the Kenyan Times the next day with the headline, "Did Jesus appear in Nairobi?" Well, it wasn't Jesus, it was Maitreya.
So just so I'm clear, Maitreya and Jesus are not the same person.
They're not the same person, but they work together all the time. They're best friends. The masters, they're called the Masters of Wisdom or the Ascended Masters, senior members of the spiritual kingdom. All of these great beings work together. They have no ego, so they're never jealous of each other. They work together cooperatively all the time. And so Maitreya and Jesus work very, very closely together.
Interesting. Now, how are people going to know? We do have some listeners in England. How are people going to know if they're sitting next to Maitreya at a pub somewhere? How do they know what he'll look like? How will folks recognize him?
They probably won't. The most common way to recognize one of the masters is there's either something in the eyes that's really special. They look real deep, or they're incredibly beautiful. Another one would be all of a sudden they feel just surrounded by love and they can't explain it. They don't know why. Another one might be that they feel happy, just full of joy, and there's no reason to be that happy right now. That's the energy of the masters, and those are the common ways that people have recognized that they've seen a master or been near a master. But just looking at them, masters can appear any way they want to, and they do that. Benjamin Creme was in touch with one of the masters, one of the senior members of our spiritual kingdom. He was trained how to telepathically be in touch with them. Not channeling, but telepathy, which is a much higher, more perfect communication. And people would write in to Share International Magazine, a monthly magazine he started, about Maitreya and about good things happening in the world. And they would share their experience. And if it was, he would ask his master. And if it was true, he'd publish the letter. He was the senior editor of Share Magazine, Share International Magazine. And he would publish it, and then he would say which master it was. And so this is how I know how people recognize masters. I've had several experiences of Maitreya, according to Benjamin Creme, his master, and several experiences of Jesus, both. And it's special, but they can appear any way they want to. I saw Jesus as a homeless man. I saw twice I saw him as a homeless man, different guy each time. I saw Jesus as a young girl, about 9 years old. I saw Maitreya as a homeless man. I saw him as an African American, and I saw him as a white guy. And so they can appear however they want to appear. They usually appear to teach a lesson and to give hope. They're all about hope, and that's why I'm doing this interview. I want people to have hope for a bright future, because when he comes, he's going to make suggestions about how we can turn this world around. His first five priorities, Frank, are food for everybody, housing for everybody, education for everybody, health care for everybody as human rights, and clean up the environment. Those are his first 5 real basic stuff, Frank.
Yeah, it certainly beats a chicken in every pot, that's for sure. Dick, when can we expect some of those changes, some of those 5 changes that you just alluded to take place?
Well, Benjamin Crumb's master told Mr. Crumb that within 2 years of Maitreya coming forward on television and radio worldwide, that starvation would end. You know, we have a 14% per capita surplus of food.
Has he come forward at this point, or is that forthcoming?
No. Here's how people will be able to recognize him. They'll see his face there'll be a big announcement for a worldwide press conference. They'll see his face on TV, but his lips won't move. They'll hear his words in their head telepathically in whatever their native language is. That's the first way you'll know it's the world teacher. The second way is he embodies the love of God. He said he's going to send out the love of God so that we will feel it like we've never felt it before. He said it will be as if I physically embrace you. So feeling the love of God in your heart like you've never felt it before would be the second way that you know it's the world teacher.
All right.
And the third way is after he's done speaking, nobody knows when or for how long, 20, 30, 45 minutes. When he's done speaking, there will be press reports from around the world, Frank, that while he was speaking, hundreds of thousands of people were miraculously healed. And in these 3 ways, you'll know that this is the world teacher, and then we can either follow his suggestions or not. We have free will. The masters will never, ever make us do anything.
Dick Larson, you can learn more about Maitreya at share-international.us. Dick, when we do see that press conference, we're going to have you back on the radio to do a little post-press conference analysis, okay?
That would be wonderful, Frank.
Thank you, Dick Larson. You want to comment? Feel free to do so. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. That was something. Straight ahead.
The Other Side of Midnight.
Ask your doctor about Air Supra, albuterol budesonide. Eligible patients can pay as little as $0 per inhaler, subject to eligibility rules and maximum savings limits. Restrictions may apply. Visit airsuprasavings.com to learn more.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
With half-price appetizers, late night at Applebee's is for the second shifters. Working hard-ish and partying harder. The parents, who found a sitter they kind of trust a little and ran with it. And old friends sharing new stories over scrumptious shareables. For half the price. Late night at Applebee's is for every crew, squad, group of homies, or loose acquaintances who know that half-price appetizers are way more fun. But they won't last forever, so hurry in.
Limited time. Selection, price, and participation may vary by restaurant location. Valid for dine-in orders and online via applebees.com or the mobile app. This is brought to you by Fruity Pebbles. Add some creativity to your mornings with Fruity Pebbles. With big fruity flavor to feed big inspirations. Fruity Pebbles turn the world into a playground. Whether you're turning ordinary paper into art or creating a culinary masterpiece, Fruity Pebbles can be the spark that ignites creativity. What are you gonna yabba-dabba-do next? Head to postpebblescereal.com to learn more. Yabba-dabba-do and the Flintstones and all related characters and elements. Copyright and trademark Hanna-Barbera.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
You know our love was meant to be the kind of love to last forever. And I want you here with me from tonight until the end of time. You should know everywhere I go.
Chicago, you're the inspiration. This is a birthday bumper music selection from my friend Harry Hurley, a terrific radio talk show host in his own right, and Chicago is his all-time favorite band, and he's gotten to see a lot of bands in person, and he's just a great guy. You know, Harry is someone that I really respect and admire, and I would say that even if we weren't friends, which we are. Harry had a very good job working for Donald Trump in Trump casinos in Atlantic City, and was doing well as an executive. I think he was a senior vice president, but he never lost the bug to want to be on the radio. And essentially, he goes to his wife, Margie, and says, all of a sudden, I want to give up this nice job that I have working for Trump and pursue a career in radio. Out of nowhere, he says that. And sure enough, she was incredibly supportive, and he's done very well in radio. He's won every award there is. He's in all sorts of different halls of fame when it comes to radio. So it's, that's the kind of story that I just love as a radio guy. Really inspiring, which is an appropriate thing to mention given his song selection here from Chicago. Hey, today, my son Carmine, at all of 2.5 years old, is off from school because of Juneteenth. So his former babysitter, Lorraine, who watched him before he started school, is going to be taking him to the movies today to see the new Garfield movie. Now, he's never been to the movies before, so I'm wondering how this is going to go. I think it's going to be interesting. He's never seen Garfield before. I try and show him the comics, because I'm one of the few people that still gets the Sunday papers that have the comics in there. And I show him the Garfield comics. He had not had much interest in the Garfield comics. So yesterday, I put on the Garfield movie, not the one that's out in theaters now, but the one that came out 20 years ago with Bill Murray as Garfield's voice. And he was really into it. He liked it. Now, that was a live action film. I think this film that's out now is animated. So I'm hoping, I can't imagine he's going to sit still for a whole 90 minutes or whatever it is. But I think he's going to like it. We'll see how it goes. My wife just sent me a picture. He was up and out of bed about an hour ago, which is not a good sign. But hopefully he has a good time at the movies today. Keep asking questions.
Hey, it's Joe Piscopo. When you're looking for concrete materials for your next construction project, call Diamondback Ready Mix on Staten Island. This family-owned and operated business is the go-to supplier for concrete materials in New York, New Jersey, and the surrounding tri-state areas. My friends and experts from Diamondback Ready Mix are experts and fully licensed and insured in New York and in New Jersey to deliver ready-mix concrete to your job site. Give them a call today for more information at 718-650-5649, 718-650-5649.